And salutations, it's me, Salty, and we're here with another 2 Cents Toy review. And I am excited and chomping at the bit to finally review this toy. I got him a couple weeks ago, and I've been waiting for a chance to film and so I can review it and open it with all of you, and the spot on my X-Men shelf has been calling his name. And I picked it up at my local GameStop, like I do a lot of my figures. They know me so well there that they'll call me and let me know when stuff comes in and that they'll put one back for me just because they know what I like, what I'm after. And I paid about $39.99 before tax for him, I think. And so far, just looking at what's in the box and the box itself, I think that's a pretty solid deal. We get that Shadowhead King, we get the chair, we get that propulsion effect, we get Professor Xavier himself. I understand he's a repurposed body mold, but I'll get into that later. Now, looking at the box art, which is phenomenal, by the way, it makes my soul happy. And you'll notice up here in the corner on the back that his head effect was originally more blue or silver than what we got. And here on the side of the box, you'll notice up here around the top they really hammered home this whole, we'll call it milk effect. And I'll get into that later because I got something else for it, and I got some choice words for Hasbro's design department on that because someone somewhere saw that and thought it would be a good idea and signed off on it and saw nothing wrong with it. Anyway, let's get into Professor X's background real quick. As everyone knows, he has a long and storied history with Marvel, dating all the way back to 1963 when the first X-Men comic came out. And he looked much different then, obviously, and we didn't get this version of Professor X, who's my Professor X. This is the one I grew up with until 1991 when Volume 2 of X-Men started. And now what's interesting, or something that's kind of cool to talk about, and I think someone had to have planned this. Like, this is the good part of the planning. If this happened by accident, I'll eat my shoe. Is that Forge actually designed that X. And Forge comes out this year, just like Professor X did. And weirdly enough, before then, he was able to walk again. He was put into a new clone body, and it was actually the Shadow King who put him back into the chair. So I just think that's kind of a cool little, circle of life little deal where we're getting all these things that are interconnected, but I'm sure a lot of other people have made that connection before, but I geeked out a little bit. Forgive me. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do a time-lapse opening this up and putting the chair together, and let's go ahead and get that started, and then we'll get this review right on the way. Okay, sorry about that missing frame there. My video corrupted while I was editing it, so I have to redo this half, which isn't really that big of a problem. And let me start off by saying I'm so glad I got this. I love this figure. The chair, all of it, except for, one main part, which I'm sure you can already figure out what that is. And now, that's not to say it's without flaw, because it is. It's got a couple flaws. But I love it. I'm a big sucker for Marvel Legends. I know they reuse body molds. I'm okay with that. If it weren't for the reuse of body molds, like I'm pretty sure that Professor X here uses the Clark Gregg. What was his character? Agent Coulson. I'm pretty sure they use his body mold. But if they didn't reuse body molds like this, then we wouldn't get as many figures as frequently as we do. Sorry for the burp there. So, we'll just get into some of the flaws before I start singing praises for this freaking thing. So, I'm sure you can see it. I don't even have to point it out, but I'm going to point it out anyway. The seam right here in the front, which it's inherent in the design, that's going to happen, but I'd rather them submit to us this figure the way it is, packaged the way it is, instead of selling us Professor X and then making his chair a Build-A-Figure. Kind of how they did the wings with the MCU Vulture. I like this a lot better. I'm willing to sacrifice a seam here in order to have the figure all at once instead of having to piece him together over time. Unfortunately, it's also pretty evident in the back, but again, it's inherent in the design, and I don't care about the marbling. I think it makes it look, more metallic, more metally. Some people get up in arms about marbling, but I think it gives it a little bit of texture, and I think it's great. So, the last kind of big flaw is, of course, the milk effect for the kids watching. Ask your dad later what you think it should be called. And it kind of, mine, I don't know if that's for everybody, mine sits kind of wonky here. Like, it's not flush in the middle. You can see how there's a ridge for Cerebro and a peg, and it's cattywampus in order for it to be straight. So when it sits like that, how it should, to encompass Cerebro, it doesn't, because this ends up knocking into him a little bit. So I'm okay with that, though, because it's probably going to go in a fodder bin or the trash. I might keep it just in case I end up wanting to sell Professor X. I know. I shudder the thought, but should a day ever arise, I like to have my figures complete. So, before we get into the articulation of the figure, let's go over the chair a little bit. So, here's a little lap blanket. The chair, you can take this off, no problem, and he'll sit and balance with no issues. I'll even plop him back in here. It does wobble a little side to side, but that's only if you're touching it. Otherwise, it sits perfectly fine. I like to give him a little bit of height with this. Just taking pictures, putting him on my shelf. He kind of needs it just to elevate him so he doesn't get lost in the background. But these panels open up here on the chair, which I think is really cool. They could have half-assed this and put stickers in here, but they didn't. They actually sculpted it. And every time I look at it, I see more and more like the vents are sculpted. Everything on here, they could have just done stickers for a lot of this, and they didn't. And that's some fan service right there. So, I won't be talking about the Shadow King head, just because I don't have a body to put him on. If I ever acquire the Kingpin Bath, which is what I see people using, I'll probably do it, but that's not the Shadow King that I know. The Shadow King I know looks drastically different. But, alright. Moving on to Professor Xavier. So, he's got the basic articulation of a Marvel legend, double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, pin rocker down here at the feet, but his feet are a little stiff for me, and he has a hard time standing up. I mean, he's Professor Xavier, so he's not really going to be standing, no offense, but if you really try, you can kind of get him to stay, or at least, well enough that he might balance against another figure. Cerebro fits a little wonky on his head. It's secure, it's not going anywhere, but it just sits a little bit strange. There's some spacing issues, but I love his double jointed elbows come all the way up, like way past 90, so you can get that, temple rub or, all sorts of different things. I love that the tie is a separate piece, that it's not just stuck to the body. They gave him an ab crunch, which is great if you need him to hunch over in his chair or, whatever. He doesn't go back very far because of the coat, which I'm pretty sure we can take the coat off, which I don't know why you would, because he'd have green arms and a white torso, but you can if you so please. And I love it. I keep saying that, but I do. I love it. So I'm going to place him right back here in his chair. And I don't know how much of that you actually saw, because I realized I had him basically up by my face, just because I was still so enamored with this. And I'd have to check the box art. The box art kind of shows how this is supposed to be worn. I'm going to put it on like this, because it looks like it's a little more folded. This looks a little more clean cut for a blanket, so I kind of like it that way, just a little bit more, but you can fit it in either way that you like. So before I go any further, though, speaking more on this monstrosity, there is a guy on eBay and Instagram. On Instagram, he's at Juicetincustoms, like Justin, but Juicetincustoms. And I bought this off of him, which he included some sticky tack, which that's a gentleman and a scholar, in my opinion. And I think this looks so much better than this. So he's definitely going to be displayed with that, and that, again, that's going into a fodder box. So go give him a like and a follow on Instagram and Facebook. I'll put the link in the description below to both, as well as his eBay page where I bought that. And I sing praises for him, because I've seen a lot of the other stuff he sells. He has like whiskey bottles, Coke cans, all sorts of things for dioramas and displays, and they look legit. So I'm definitely going to save him as a seller and go back and get stuff for my diorama from him. And I just think it's great. So I'm sure at this point you're already looking at the photos that I've taken, and he scales well with the chair. The air below is a little bit off-putting in the display, but you know, I think it would have been better if you have the Mojo bat from Toy Biz. He has little clear glass pegs at the bottom. I think that would have been a better venture, but they would have had to be really long, and probably looks really silly on this chair. But, you know, I put him with my X-Men, obviously. I grew up with the Jim Lee X-Men, and to me, this is Professor Xavier, you know, the gold and blue teams. I can't wait to finish the rest of the line. I'm still looking for Rogue, because I missed out on her, and now she's like $130 for some reason. So, much as I love Rogue, I'm not paying that much just to have a Marvel Legend that retailed for $20. If you know a guy that might have a couple that's willing to part with for, you know, $50, which I'm willing to go that high for a Rogue, then let me know down in the comments. But as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do constructive criticism down in the comments, or just tell me to kill myself, whichever you want to do. I don't care. And don't forget to like us and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at 2 Cents Toys. You can also find us over on Instagram at 2_cents_toys. And we are on Twitter as at 2 Cents Toys. Sometimes we post little teasers. Sometimes I'll post the still frames from the videos on there ahead of time, so that way you can kind of, you know, see if you want to watch the next video or not. Anyway, I'm Salty, signing out.